The African Kingdoms, Power, Gold, and Innovation Prologue. The pulse of a continent long before the ships of Europe kissed Africa's coasts, long before the maps were redrawn and kingdoms renamed, the heart of the continent beat with the thunder of drums, the glitter of gold, and the minds of inventors and visionaries. This is the story of three kingdoms, Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, and how they shaped a world not with swords alone, but with wisdom, wealth, and wonder. Ghana, the gateway of gold. In the vast Sahelian plains, where dry winds whisper across endless sands, rose the kingdom of Ghana, the land of gold. By the 8th century, Ghana had become the beacon of wealth in West Africa. At the center of this empire was the city of Kaumbi Saleh, a twin city divided into two, one for the king and his court, and another for Muslim traders and scholars. The king, known as the Ghana, sat on a golden throne, draped in fine silk and adorned with ornaments of ivory and precious stones. His word was law, and his rule stretched across forests, savannas, and trade routes. Gold was their lifeblood. The land near the Niger River yielded this treasure from deep underground veins and riverbeds. But it wasn't just what Ghana had, it was how they managed it. The empire imposed strict laws. Gold nuggets could not be traded directly. Only gold dust was allowed. The king kept the nuggets, ensuring the royal treasury never ran dry. Ghana's power lay not only in its wealth, but in its mastery of trade. Caravans from the north brought salt, horses, cloth, and dates. In return, they received gold, ivory, cola nuts, and slaves. Silent trade, a method in which traders never spoke but used signals and trust, allowed different cultures and languages to thrive in business. But Ghana's story wasn't without shadows. As it grew richer, enemies grew envious. Raiders from the north and internal rebellion would eventually weaken it. Yet Ghana left behind a legacy, a model for empires to come, a realm where trade, taxation, and technology intertwined. Mali, the golden age where Ghana fell. Mali rose, a phoenix of prosperity. Founded by the legendary Sundiata Keita in the 13th century, Mali would become one of the most celebrated kingdoms in African history. Sundiata was no ordinary ruler. As a boy, he could not walk. Many doubted his future. But legend tells of a miraculous moment when, driven by the suffering of his people under a cruel rival king, he stood and marched, leading his people to liberation. He founded Mali on principles of justice, unity, and strategy. By the time of Mansa Musa, Sundiata's descendant, Mali was unmatched. Mansa Musa, often called the richest man in history, expanded the empire to twice the size of Ghana. But his fame was sealed in 1324 when he embarked on a pilgrimage to Mecca. He didn't go alone. With a caravan of 60,000 people, 100 camels each carrying hundreds of pounds of gold, and thousands of soldiers, Musa's journey was a spectacle. In Cairo, he distributed so much gold that its value plummeted for years, causing inflation in surrounding economies. But Mansa Musa wasn't merely a showman. Upon returning, he transformed Timbuktu into a center of learning, culture, and innovation. Scholars from across the Islamic world came to teach at its university, which housed thousands of manuscripts. Architecture flourished. Mosques were built from mud and timber, blending African style with Islamic art. Agriculture thrived under careful management. New irrigation systems allowed farming during dry seasons. Mali became a model of balance between wealth and wisdom, showing that power could be guided by intellect. Songhai, the empire of intelligence. As Mali waned, Songhai surged forward. Rising in the 15th century, with Gao as its capital, Songhai became the largest and one of the most sophisticated empires in African history. Under the rule of Sunni Ali, Songhai became a military juggernaut. A brilliant tactician, Ali led armies across deserts and rivers, capturing cities, including the jewel of Mali, Timbuktu. But it wasn't conquest alone that defined him. He was a master at merging tradition with innovation, blending local customs with new governance structures. However, it was Askia Muhammad, Sunni Ali's successor, who elevated Songhai to greatness. Askia reorganized the empire, creating provinces, appointing governors, standardizing weights and measures, and promoting Islamic law and education. He sent scholars to Morocco and Egypt to study law, medicine, astronomy, and mathematics. Timbuktu reached new heights under his reign, becoming home to one of the oldest universities in the world, attracting thinkers from across continents. Innovation thrived. Metal tools improved agriculture. Boats called pirogues navigated the Niger River, moving people and products. Trade routes stretched from the Atlantic to the Red Sea, but Songhai, like its predecessors, faced the tide of time. In 1591, with the invasion of Moroccan forces armed with firearms, the empire fractured. Yet, even in decline, its achievements echoed. Hidden technologies and ingenuity contrary to outdated stereotypes, these kingdoms weren't primitive. They were highly organized, innovative, and advanced in many domains. Architecture. Using mud brick technology, architects built enduring structures like the Great Mosque of Jen, the largest mud building in the world. Mathematics and astronomy. Manuscripts from Timbuktu reveal complex understandings of algebra, geometry, and the movement of celestial bodies. Medicine. African physicians performed eye surgeries, herbal treatments, and had sophisticated methods for diagnosing illnesses. Metallurgy. From iron tools to goldsmithing, metalworking was central to economic and military power. These innovations weren't isolated. African knowledge crossed the Sahara, reached Europe and the Middle East, and influenced the wider world. Women, wisdom, and society. In the heart of these empires, women played vital roles as traders, diplomats, and leaders. In Mali, women had legal protections, could own land, and managed family wealth. Oral traditions speak of strong matriarchs, wise counselors, and courageous queens who influenced major decisions. Education was valued. Children learned not only survival skills, but history, poetry, and ethics through griots, storytellers who preserved memory through song and speech. These griots were walking libraries, holding centuries of data in their minds. Society wasn't static. The empires adapted to environmental changes, navigated political turmoil, and continually evolved. Echoes of empire. Though Ghana, Mali, and Songhai fell to changing times, their legacies endure. Their cities laid the foundations for modern African metropolises. Their systems of governance influenced later states. Their trade networks evolved into international corridors. Their ideas live on in manuscripts, architecture, and the memory of the people. Modern African nations draw pride and inspiration from these empires. The currency of Mali today is named the West African CFA franc, an echo of shared economic heritage. Statues of Sundiata and Mansa Musa stand in modern cities. And the desert sand still yields scrolls from ancient libraries. Perhaps more importantly, their stories challenge stereotypes. Africa wasn't a passive continent waiting for civilization to arrive. It was a cradle of civilization, innovation, and leadership. Epilogue. A new dawn as the sun sets over the Sahel and the wine stirs the dust of ancient roads, the legacy of the African kingdoms whispers still. It is a call not only to remember the past, but to reclaim it, to teach it, and to build upon it. For power isn't just in conquest, gold is not just in vaults. And innovation doesn't wear a single face. Africa was and remains a continent of empires, ideas, and indomitable spirit.